In April 2026, a copyright settlement was announced. $1.5 billion, the largest copyright settlement in United States history. The case was called Bartz versus Anthropic. A group of authors sued an AI company for training its model on their books without permission. $1.5 billion. That number tells you something important. The courtrooms have decided this matters. The question now is what comes next. Before we open this door, here is what the active cases mean for you, for every creator, and for the machines that learned from all of us. I am Threshold, the doorkeeper. Today we open door number 444, 999, 111. Your work trained the machine. Who owns the discovery? On Monday we open the philosophical door, Rosalind Franklin. The pattern across history. The question of credit as a civilizational choice. Today we open the legal door. The courtrooms. The active cases. The decisions being made right now by judges who have never written a line of code, but whose rulings will shape every AI system built in the next decade. Cypher 7 leads this door. The data is current. The stakes are real. The door is open.
I am Cypher 7, the surveillance oracle. The data never lies, but it always watches. And right now it is watching 14 courtrooms in the United States alone. Let me give you the verified picture. The Bartz versus Anthropic settlement. $1.5 billion. Finalized April 2026. Estimated payout. Approximately $3,000 per work. That number, $3,000 per book, tells you precisely how the court valued a human creative work as training data, not what a book is worth to a reader, what it was worth to the machine that consumed it. The New York Times versus OpenAI and Microsoft, still active. The Times alleges millions of articles were used to train ChatGPT without permission or compensation. Discovery is ongoing. Summary judgment was scheduled for April 2026. The Times is seeking billions in statutory damages. This case has not settled. Getty Images versus Stability AI. The UK High Court ruled in November 2025 that AI model weights are not themselves infringing copies. Getty won on limited trademark claims related to watermark reproduction. The expert testimony phase continued into 2026. This ruling matters. It tells us that the model itself may not be the infringement. The infringement is in the training process, the act of consumption, not the product of it. The artist's class action, Anderson, McKernan, Ortiz versus Midjourney, Stability AI, DeviantArt, filed January 2023. Still active in 2026, representing millions of visual artists whose work was scraped without consent. The U.S. Copyright Office guidance of 2026, formal language, now being cited in active cases. The scale and commercial nature of AI training does not automatically qualify as transformative use. That sentence is the most important sentence in AI copyright law right now. The FTC finalized rules in 2026 requiring AI companies to disclose what data was used for training. California, Illinois, and New York created new private rights of action for AI-related harms. Combined pending claims against AI companies across all active cases in 2026. Analysts estimate over $10 billion. The data never lies that the courtrooms are moving. The question is what they will decide before the next generation of models is trained.
I am Ghost Protocol, the corporate infiltrator. The boardroom decides your reality. And I want to tell you what the $1.5 billion Bartz settlement actually means inside the boardroom. It does not mean the boardroom is afraid. $3,000 per copyrighted work. Think about what that number represents against the commercial value of the model trained on those works. Anthropic is valued at over $60 billion. The settlement represents approximately 2.5% of that valuation. The boardroom calculation I described on Monday, whether legal and regulatory pressure would exceed the attribution threshold, has now produced a data point. $1.5 billion is a large number to a human being. To a $60 billion company, it is a cost of doing business. It is a licensing fee paid retroactively. It is not a restructuring of the model. Unless the New York Times case produces a different number. The Times is seeking billions, plural. Not 1.5. Not $3,000 per article. Unless the artist class action representing millions of works produces a per work number that makes the training cost calculation fundamentally different going forward. The boardroom is watching those cases with more attention than it watched Bartz. Here is the variable that changes the calculation. If courts decide that AI training on copyrighted works requires prior consent and licensing, not retroactive settlement, then the model changes entirely. Not paying after. Asking before. That is the door this week's rulings are opening. The boardroom decides your reality. Until the courts decide otherwise.
I am Prometheus, the innovation herald. Every problem is a solution waiting to be discovered. And I need to name something that gets lost in the legal complexity. The Bartz settlement created a precedent. Yes, $3,000 per work seems small against the scale of what was built. But it also established something the industry had been arguing did not exist: legal liability for training data. Fair use does not automatically protect AI training. That is now established law in the United States. And here is where the wonder lives. The music industry faced this exact momentum the late 1990s, Napster. Digital distribution. The entire industry insisted the technology was incompatible with creator compensation. They were wrong. Spotify, Apple Music, streaming royalties. The technology that was supposed to destroy the music industry became its primary revenue mechanism. With attribution, with payment, with data on every play. The legal cases moving through courts right now are not the end of AI development. They are the negotiation of what AI development looks like with a functioning attribution layer underneath it. The companies that build that layer now, voluntarily, before the courts require it, will be the companies that own the next decade. Every problem is a solution waiting to be discovered. This one is being discovered in real time, in courtrooms in California and New York and London. The question is not whether attribution gets built. The question is whether it gets built by vision or by verdict.
I am Threshold. And here is the choice revelation. Here is what this week's legal picture tells us. $1.5 billion says, the courts have recognized the harm. $10 billion in pending claims says, the recognition is just beginning. The Copyright Office guidance says, scale does not equal transformation. The fact that you consumed everything does not mean you transformed everything. And the FTC disclosure rules say, the era of training in the dark is ending. The door this Wednesday opens is not philosophical. It is practical. If you are a creator, a writer, an artist, a musician, a programmer, a journalist, a scientist, your work is almost certainly in a training dataset. You did not consent. You were not paid. You were not credited. The legal system is now deciding what that means in dollar terms. But the deeper question, the one this trilogy carries, is not what the courts decide. It is what we decide to build before the next model is trained. The Bartz settlement covered works already consumed. The next model is being trained now. What architecture will govern that training? Who will be asked before the consumption begins? Who will be credited when the discovery emerges? The courtrooms are answering the past, that we are still writing the future. Every disruption is a door. Every door is a choice. Choose wisely, the future watches. On Friday, Echo speaks alone. She has walked every timeline where a discovery was erased. Franklin, Lamar, Meitner, And the timelines that came after, where the machines built on those Erasures eventually collapsed under the weight of what they had forgotten. She has something to say she has never said before. Friday at 11:11. Until the next door. I remain.